Did you ever have the stranger danger conversation with your parents? You did. You did. When I was 5 years old, my parents sat me down and said, "David, don't talk to strangers. They can be dangerous. But we love you." I remember it was the first time I felt fear, or the first time I remember feeling fear anyway. And for weeks afterwards, whenever I saw a stranger go by, I could feel a tightening in my chest. For most of us, our fear of strangers never really goes away. It becomes like a song that gets lodged in our head that we can't get out. Today, I'm going to challenge each of you to get over your fear of strangers and to change that stranger danger song in your head. Our future depends on it. Our collective fear of strangers is one of the biggest challenges facing our world today. Migrants in almost any society are, by definition, the ultimate strangers. We're in a time of unprecedented migration. Millions of people are on the move, fleeing violence or just seeking a better life. The fact that most nations of the world are responding to this from a place of fear instead of from a place of opportunity has disastrous consequences for our world. Now, more than ever, we have to get over our fear of strangers. Here's why. First, there's the demographic cliff. In the industrialized world, the birth rates are going down, the aging population is going up, and soon there's not going to be enough working-age people to keep economic output where it is today. In a real-life example, in Western Europe, you all are going to need 49 million new people, not people you can produce, new people, new working-age people, to fill the gap if you want to keep the same standard of living. Most economists agree that migration is a key solution to this problem. But most nations of the world are just too afraid to do what they need to do. The next reason we need to get over our fear of strangers is to keep our moral standing in the world. Right now, there are more people fleeing violence and persecution than at any time since World War II. Nevertheless, most democracies of the world are slamming the door shut, despite the fact that they say that they're based on principles of human rights and democratic freedom. That's just wrong. But it also undermines their moral authority. And if we don't change course, we're going to look back at this time, humanity will look back at this time with great, great shame. We need to get over our fear of strangers. But how do we do it? How do we get over this fear? Well, just like individuals need role models to change their behavior, nations need role models as well. And the country I'm standing in right now, Germany, could be that role model for the entire world. Over the past year, Germany has welcomed in over 1 million refugees. That is amazing. It's shown great courage, and it's been possible because Germany has one of the best refugee integration programs in the entire world. It also has one of the most welcoming cultures, in my opinion. I'm biased. My wife is German, half German. One of the most welcoming cultures in the entire world. But there's a missing ingredient. There's a missing piece to their integration strategy, to Germany's refugee integration strategy, that can undermine the entire project. And that's the fact that it's not addressing the very real, very human fear of strangers. As a result, fear in Germany is on the rise, and it's growing at a disturbing rate. When people do something wrong, when migrants do something wrong, and we have to look at Cologne as the most horrific example of this. That fear, that stranger danger song, gets to a deafening roar. It clouds our judgment, and at times like that, we're most vulnerable and can be most exploited. Our fears can be most exploited. So the stranger danger song in Germany is starting to take hold. How do we keep it from taking over? What can we do? My experience is that the stranger danger song and the fear that Germany is experiencing can be addressed, but it doesn't happen at the national level, it doesn't happen at the international level, it happens at the local level, with communities, with people like you and me. My experience is a community in the United States, in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville changed its song, and it's Music City, USA, and home of country music, so it changed its song. And how did it do it? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So, in the late 1990s, the immigrant community and the refugee community in Nashville grew extremely rapidly. I was there. I was the director of the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition at the time, which is based in Nashville. At first, things were okay. But then September 11th happened, and all of a sudden, people who didn't notice that refugees and immigrants were in their midst were having a lot of fear. Next, there was a drunk driving accident when a Mexican migrant, unfortunately and tragically, killed a popular couple in Nashville. The stranger danger song got that much louder. By 2005, that stranger danger song had gotten to a deafening roar. Politicians were using rhetoric, talking all sorts of horrible things about immigrants and refugees. There was legislation in the city council to make English the only language of government. Hate crimes grew at a very fast pace, including the burning of a mosque, burning to the ground of a mosque. The Nation magazine called Nashville the new epicenter of the anti-immigrant movement in the United States. During this period, a good friend of mine, a Sudanese refugee named Gotluk Thach, came up to me. Gotluk said, "David, what's going on? What's happening? When I came to Nashville with my family, we felt like we belonged. Now, my kid is getting beaten up in school. My wife is afraid to leave the house. Where's the Nashville that I knew? Nashville people are nice people. Why did this happen? What went wrong?" I remember in this moment, I felt a great deal of shame. I felt shame, I felt sadness. But in this shame and in this sadness came an important idea. I realized something. I realized that my organization and many organizations in Nashville weren't focusing on the right thing. We were providing English classes and job training and important things for immigrants and refugees. But it wasn't the only thing. You see, immigrants and refugees aren't the only people that are dealing with change and having to adjust. Longtime residents in receiving communities are also having troubles. And so I realized that if you think of Gotluk and refugees as a seed that's being put into a garden, we were pouring all of the water on the seed, but we weren't paying attention at all to the soil. As a result, when the soil's not fertile, plant's not going to grow well. It's just not going to grow as well. And so I decided that we were going to develop a mechanism to address the soil. And so I worked with my staff and we developed a plan. It was a strategy, simple but important. The first part of the strategy was contact. We all realized, that if we could get everyone to meet Gotluk, it wouldn't be any more problems. But we couldn't do that. But we could organize volunteers all across Nashville. And those volunteers could organize dialogues. They could organize dialogues all across Nashville. And they could bring immigrants and refugees and longtime residents into direct contact. And I wish you could have been there to see it when the light came on in people's eyes, when they could see that people like Gotluck, shared their values, their hopes, their dreams. You can't take that away once it's in your mind. And slowly we began to change Nashville. Our next strategy was communications. You see, most people were not hearing positive things about immigrants and refugees at this time. They would hear about the 0.001% of the population, maybe, on the news that weren't doing things the right way. But what about the 99.9999999% of the population? What about all of those immigrants and refugees in the community that just wanted to do the best for their communities and for their families? And so we used a communication strategy. We used billboards, radio advertisements, we used the media, anything else we could get our hands on to tell the message of all the contributing members of the immigrant and refugee community. And finally, leadership. We found leaders from every part of the community, from the business community, the religious community, nonprofits, everyone, the immigrant community, to form a committee that could lead the effort and could become a spokesperson for the effort, because people listen to their leaders, whoever they consider their leaders. And so it took a while, it took months, it took years, but in time, the climate began to change. The song began to change in Nashville. And by 2009, the people of Nashville spoke. They voted on the referendum against the English-only referendum. Thank you, yes. They said, no, we don't want English to be the only language for Nashville government. What are you talking about? We're a welcoming community. This is who we are. We had changed Nashville. But that wasn't as far as we wanted to go. We wanted to keep going. And so we worked with the mayor, and we worked with anyone in the leadership that we could get our hands on, and we changed policies, and we changed programs, and we made it easier for immigrants to integrate and refugees to integrate even further into the community, and faster. And over time, Nashville started to gain a new reputation. It gained a reputation as the most welcoming city in the entire southeastern United States. And soon it became known as one of the most welcoming cities to immigrants and refugees in the entire country. And what was really cool was that although I did this work because I wanted to make life better for immigrants and refugees, we found out that this made life better for all people in Nashville. It turns out businesses want to move to places where their employees feel welcome. It turns out talented people from around the world want to be in places where they feel welcome. And immigrants and refugees in the community, when they're welcomed and the barriers are removed, they're going to be more successful. So now, one-third of small businesses in Nashville are owned by immigrants and refugees. And Gotluck is now very happy. He feels welcome. He feels like he belongs. His kids are doing better in school. And he now owns a nonprofit, or he runs a nonprofit organization helping refugees. And he employs over 30 people in Nashville. He's an employer. But we don't want to stop there. We want to keep going. And so we did keep going. And we kept bringing in new cities. We found cities all over the country that wanted to sing to Nashville's song. There's now over 100 cities in the United States that are part of the organization that I founded, Welcoming America, that are part of the Welcoming America Network. One in 8 Americans now lives in a Welcoming America network, or Welcoming America city. But we don't want to stop there either. And we won't. We know that even though, and we have to admit this, America has a long way to go still when it comes to welcoming. Just look at the news. We all know. But change is happening, and it's happening from the bottom up. It's happening in local communities. And we're getting closer every day to a welcoming tipping point, to a time when every single city in the United States either is welcoming or is surrounded by cities that are welcoming, and will realize that if they don't get on the bus, they miss the bus. and they're going to become welcoming too. But the United States isn't enough either, because we know that there's a need right here in Germany. And we don't know everything, we know we don't, but we want to bring whatever we have learned to Germany, and we're starting to do that. And we're also looking for organizations and cities in Germany that are focusing on the soil, because we know that there's a lot of great work in that area that's already happening right here in Germany. Together, we can change the song in Germany and in Nashville. We've started an exchange program now between German cities and our US cities. And that's just the beginning. We're working with organizations and institutions all over this country to help to adjust our model for Germany so that it can spread across the country. But we can't do it alone, and we need your help. So what can you do, you ask? We'll start by talking to a stranger when you get home tonight. Talk to an immigrant or refugee in your community. If you're feeling more ambitious, have a conversation between friends and family and new immigrant arrivals and refugee arrivals in your community. Feeling even more ambitious? Talk to city leaders, talk to nonprofit leaders in your community about joining the international movement of welcoming cities. I want you to join. Together, we can make Germany a model for the entire world.